Okay, we're actually going to start seated. So we don't need too many props, but if you've got a block, you could take that, allow yourself to seat, just so that you've got a little bit of an opportunity to get the knees down lower. As we've said before, the idea is to try and relax the legs lower than this top hip bone, so they don't have to be this far down. But if you are able to get the shins to the ground, it just gives you a wider base. You've got a nice big triangle to work from rather than just a couple of sitting bones. And that makes it altogether easier to sit up. It's one of those things that the closer you can get to this position, the easier it is to stay in it. But it's the getting to that point that takes a bit of perseverance sometimes. And generally, all of the other poses that we do in our Hatha classes actually lend themselves to making this more accessible over time. As usual, we're just working on finding our neutral position in the spine and closing the eyes. Now, if you want to, you can take a little neck stretch as well, just letting the head lean over towards the right side and letting the left shoulder relax as best you can. So you need to find that happy place for you to place the hands. And if you are taking a neck stretch, we'll just gently bring the head back up. And then when you're ready, take it to the opposite side. And noticing whether you get to a similar place or whether any tightness that you find in the neck is different one side to the other. This pose really isn't going to make a huge amount of difference to that because it's just a single stretch. But it's good to observe where we might be carrying some tightness. The tightness in the neck is generally associated with tightness in the shoulders, through the trapeze muscle, out into the deltoids. Head come back into the center. We'll take the opportunity to just gently interlace the hands. So fingers interlaced, and we're rolling the wrists around gently. I'm going to start with elbows a little wide. So it's nice and relaxed in the shoulder. I'm just getting a little bit of juice into the wrists, rolling in both ways. And then I'll see if I can bring the forearms together. So I think it's a little more of a stretch into the back of the shoulders, protracting. Pectoral muscles feel like they're compressing in and cramping a little bit, maybe. And then we'll release the fingers and just float the arms out in line with the shoulders. I'm going to bring the right arm across into a surface stretch. I'm going to use that left arm underneath and just draw the shoulder round gently. So I started to feel that deltoid head draw out a little bit more and feeling the shoulder blade releasing, stretching out. I'm going to float the arms out again, nice and wide. Bring that left arm across, right arm hooks under. And we'll release. I'm going to bring the hands onto the collarbones, elbows together again, nice and low. Inhale high. For some angel wings, just drawing the shoulders back into the body, elbows touching in, lifting up as wide and as far back as you can manage. Again, just noticing how that feels in terms of smoothness. Does it run easily, or are they a bit gritty? Do both shoulders feel even in terms of how you can articulate them? And let's take one last roll around in the opposite direction. And we'll let ourselves come onto hands and knees for a little bit of cat-cow. The block out of the way. And just stretching out the day. Drawing the belly in. Inhaling up. Exhaling out. And then coming to neutral. I'm going to take a wide kneed version of child's pose. So sitting back onto the heels, giving that a little bit of a stretch in. And we'll take this into a side bend. So we'll move the arms over towards the right. And then ourselves stretch out. So I'm going to rest the ribs down onto that thigh and maybe the head to the floor. Try to let your neck and head follow the side bend of your body rather than trying to pull it round further. So you need to be honest about how you feel through the shoulders. And we'll slowly lift up. Let ourselves move across to the second side. And come back into the center. So a nice easy start. We'll lift up onto all fours, just roll the shoulders back a little bit, bring the knees underneath. And we're going to take the right leg back, press out through the heel, draw the belly in a little bit. Lift the leg away from the floor so it's about the height of the hip, toes point down, flexed foot. Taking the left hand away, we're going to lengthen that out, palm facing in, so it's in line with the body. And just focus really on drawing the belly in and trying to stay as stable as we can. So some people, when they do this, they kind of lean out to the side a lot into the hip joint. You're going to try and keep your groin over the center line where it started. Bring that hand down, knee down, and we'll take it over to the second side. So just taking your time to slide the foot back, conscious of where your body is over the center line as you lift the leg high, and then gently take that right hand away, lengthen that out in line with the body. Try to keep the hips square and stable, so the hip bones would be the same distance from the floor on both sides. So if you are rotating the hip out a little bit, generally the foot goes out to the side as well. So being aware of that can be your first indicator. Now we'll bring the hands to the floor. Knees to the ground. We're going to lift gently into down dog. So just tucking the toes underneath and letting ourselves walk out gently. Now we're going to slowly move into a plank. And then we can move the right foot, just slide it just a little forwards. And do the same with the left foot. Right foot, we use the core muscles to lift the hips up. So we're gradually moving towards a down dog position. Sliding the feet in an inch at a time. Legs stay straight. We go past down dog. And we're sliding the feet into standing forward fold territory. And as you get the heels to touch the floor with straight legs, you start to take the feet back just an inch at a time. Back past your down dog. Into your plank. Anyway, that's one done. Take a little breath from there. Allow yourself to come up onto the tippy toes. Roll the heels back towards the back of the mat into that down dog. We'll walk the hands into the toes. As they arrive, we'll take the feet out as wide as the hips. Soften the knees so ribs and thighs touch. Ragdoll. So sit down, roll gently out, exhaling the belly in, and the shoulders and head lift last. Bring hands back in towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Keeping the legs as straight as we can as we fold in, ribs and thighs touch, then we soften the knees and ragdoll out again as we exhale. Bring hands in towards the heart. Exhaling over. Down to the floor, folding as deep as we can. Then we soften the knees. It's the continuous movement, really. Rolling back out. Hands in towards the heart. And this time we'll allow ourselves to come down to the floor and walk the hands forwards into a plank. We'll take a little breath from here. Bring the right foot forwards about halfway. Roll onto the side of the left foot. So it comes a side plank. Right arm is lifted. Press that flat foot to the floor. Press the side foot to the floor. Try and keep the leg nice and strong. The foot is flexed. Bring the hands down to the floor. Back into our down dog. Into our plank. Left leg comes forwards halfway. Take it to the side version again. Bring the hands to the floor. Step it back into the plank. And we walk the feet in just an inch at a time. In our plank, get into a bit of a down dog situation. Walk past that into the forward fold position. We try and keep the legs straight. Heels touch the ground. And we start to walk back into our plank. Just little steps. Right. Lift up onto the tippy toes again. Let's come all the way to the back of the mat. Finding the toes, fold in deep. Then hands onto the hips. Soften the knees a little, flat back to lift. Shake it all out. Come up to the front of the mat. Make sure the feet are hip distance apart and parallel. Hands in towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Long flat back, weight into the toes. I'm going to step back with the right and the left. Come forwards into plank for half plank. Elbows into the ribs. Return the bootlaces down. Keep the legs strong. Roll the shoulders back. Lift up through the hips. If you can, rolling over the toes, back into your down dog. Now we'll take the right leg to the sky into scissor. Bring the foot back down. We'll take the left leg high, scissor that. Try to keep the shoulders square. And bring that foot down as well. We'll come into a plank, knees to the floor. Wide knees again, toes together. We're back into child's pose. We're going to lift just a little bit, enough so that we can take the left hand underneath and out towards the right side and lay the shoulder and ear down onto the center line. If you wish to, you can take your right hand and walk that across to the left side of the mat. So you start to look a little bit more underneath your armpit. Eyes can move a little more skywards. Looking down towards the floor. And we'll walk the hand back. Get that little bit of a lift again. So we can draw the arm out. And then, unsurprisingly, right arm goes out. Shoulder and ear come down. We take a few breaths to see how we feel. And we'll walk fingers over. If that feels good, if you're a little bit tight, it's not a problem. You can stay with the hand down the long side of the mat rather than crossing over. And then we'll walk the hand back. Press down to get that little bit of a lift. Hands come out in front. And bring the knees more underneath, tuck the toes under, and let ourselves sit gently back onto our heels for our favorite pose called Hero. Bring hands in towards your heart as well. If you wish to close your eyes, you can do, or you can just find a focus point. Quite intense through the toes. Lots of different ideas about whether all the toes should be on the floor, but that doesn't really take into account feet different shapes, of which there are at least 3 or 4 fairly defined different shapes, and at least 2 of those means that you'll only ever get your big toe and maybe the second and third one into the ground. The little toe's never going to get there just because of the shape of your foot. So you bend what you can bend. Now we'll bring the hands forwards again and untuck the toes and sit gently back onto the heels. I'm going to take the knees a little further apart as we begin our swan flow. So as we discussed earlier on, we'll start with the first one, hand in towards the heart. Start to draw the belly in, send the tailbone down and the crown of the head high. As you exhale, take your time to connect and start pressing the tailbone back and down at the same time. Ease your hands down to the floor either side until you get that gentle touch of the head to the ground. And then we'll use a rounded spine to lift ourselves back up. So you can continue with that, or if you wish to, you can take the next version of that, which is to extend the arms up towards the sky, really stretch them out, pin the arms against the ears, belly down, tailbone away, crown of the head high. And again, we just come down slow. We make a purposeful effort to slow it down and keep control of it as we come down. So we minimize the amount of lift of hips and bottom off of the heels. We just round the spine back up again. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. Try to keep the head in line with the rest of the spine. If you're using the hands over the head version, if you start to drop your head down, it will bring your arms as well, and you'll kind of rush down to the floor. And the more you rush, the harder it is to control the muscles. It's a little bit like balancing on one leg. If you move slowly, you give the rest of the body a chance for the neural pathways to fire up in the sequence you want. And you've got more chance of keeping your balance. When you start to move quick, which is kind of instinctive, because you think if you get through it quickly, you get your feet to the ground again. Sometimes it doesn't really work for us. We'll come down, take one more of those, round up through the spine. All the way down. But you could do a few with the hands into the heart, and a few above the head, and then a few back into the heart again. Work with what you need to. We'll roll back up. Now we're going to take the hands behind, tilt the pelvis back, so we're kind of scooping the belly in at that point, and then bring the hands down to the floor. So we want to keep the knees on the ground. And we're going to take the right arm across the body, swoop it out to the side, let the eyes follow those fingertips as we arc the hand over the back towards the back of the mat, bumping into the door as I've just done, hand to the ground, and then cross the other side. Now, if your knees are lifting away from the ground, you might want to bring some blocks or bricks underneath the hands so that you're moving the floor a little higher, and that will help. If you're finding this relatively easy, you want to take it the next step up. As you bring that arm across, you'll lift the hips up and press the hips towards the sky, and continue to let the hand come down. But then we sit back down onto the floor. So we make sure we're safe and grounded before we lift to the opposite side. And then we lift those hips up and roll it around. So gradually over time, that would allow us to lift a little more successfully into the fuller version of camel, which is a really big, strong pose, and needs quite a few selective teaching points. We'll bring the hands to the floor, sit back up, hands come through to the front of the mat on all fours. We're going to tuck the toes underneath, and we're just going to squat back into a little balance. So more or less having the knees together. And then we said, trying to do this, take the hands out in front, palms facing down, relax the shoulders. And we're just going to hover here on these toes. Heels are pressing into the sitting bones, hopefully. Elbows drawn in. I'm going to let the hands come to the floor. Lift the hips high into that forward fold. So we open the legs out. Hands come onto the hips and we lift up. Shake it out as we travel up towards the front of the mat. Feet are hip distance apart, hands into the heart. Exhaling down to the floor, draw the belly in. Remember, weight goes into the toes. Soften the knees, fold the head in. We take the right foot back into a lunge, nice and deep. We take a little breath from there and step ourselves back into down dog. We come forwards into plank, half plank, so up dog, and back into down dog. We'll draw the right knee into the chest, Bring the foot through, into lunge, press off the toes, and into the forward fold. Hands come onto the hips, we lift up and bring the hands in towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Come onto the fingertips to lift up and forwards. Lengthen in the spine. Fold deep. From the right foot back, we're going to come into warrior two. Drop the heel in, hands alongside the body. Lift the chest a little. Right arm comes forwards. We open up into our warrior two. First round gives us a chance to ground the feet down to the floor. We can spread the toes out a little bit, make sure the back leg is nice and strong and connected. The hands are more or less in line with the shoulders. The chest is opening out to the long side of the mat. Front knee points forwards, follows the toes, hopefully. And then we'll bring the hands back in towards the heart. Rotate the body, bring the hands down to the floor. Slide ourselves into a plank, to half plank, to up dog, to down dog as we exhale. A couple of breaths here, checking that the heels are hiding behind the ankles. Hands are flat to the floor, shoulders are widening out as we let ourselves sink into our down dog. One more breath here. Bring that right knee in, roof of the lunge. Some toes and fingers line up. Strong back leg. We press into the forward fold. Land the feet in line. Hands onto the hips. And lift up. Hands into the heart. Exhale down. Fingertip lift. Long body, weight into the toes. Fold it down, keep the weight balanced between the feet. Left foot back into the lunge, knee over ankle. Warrior two, we lift. And hands come into the heart. Rotate down to the floor. Slide ourselves into plank. Half plank. So up dog. Down dog. Draw that left foot in for lunge. And step forwards. Folding deep. Hands on the hips, shoulders and elbows back. And we lift. Hands come into the heart. We exhale down to the floor. Fingertips to lift. Fold in. Right foot back, dropping the heel in. And take a little breath. Warrior two to lift. Right arm lifts us up. And then we'll bring the hands in towards the heart. This time we're going to turn the chest and hips and spin the back heel. And then inhale the hands up above the shoulders. On the exhale, we'll lower the bent knee almost to the ground and we'll lift up. Exhale down. And down again. And again. And the final time. We'll bring the hands to the floor. Step ourselves back into our down dog. Float into plank. Half plank. Come forwards on the toes. Up dog. Rolling through the feet into our down dog. And try to broaden out the shoulders. We'll make the space between the shoulder blades as big as we can. Press down through the legs, heels towards the back of the mat. Last breath in. Right leg comes in, a lunge, and a step forwards, a fold, and a rise. Hands into the heart, second leg. Exhaling down. Fingertips to the left. Fold it in. Left leg back into the lunge for warrior two. Drop the heel. Hands alongside. We get a little lift. Open our way up. Hands into the heart. Rotate. Spin the back heel. Inhale, hands high. The ribs are down, belly's in. Back knee drops. And lifts. And drops. So exhaling on the way down just makes it a little easier to keep the belly in. And then pressing the sit bones down towards the floor and the spine down gives you a chance to get less of an arch in the spine. We'll come to the floor for the last time. Hands to the floor. Step it back into our down dog. Come forwards into our plank. For our half plank. To up dog. And stepping it back into our down dog. We'll bring the left knee in. Lunge time. Take a little breath. Step it forwards. Hands onto the hips. And lift up. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Fingertips to the left. Fold. You can take the right foot back and drop the heel in. Open up into warrior two. Take both hands above the shoulders. Rotate the chest and hips. Try to leave the back foot grounded as it was. Lean gently out 45 degrees. Square the hips up to the front of the mat. Try to keep the front knee over the ankle. A little bit of weight into the back foot. Last breath. Hands come to the floor. Step back into down dog. Into half plank. Dog breath in. Exhale, down dog. And we'll bring the right knee in and forwards for the fold. Hands to the heart. Last side. Exhale down. Fingertips. Forward. Left foot back. Nice deep lunge. Plant the foot. Open it up into our warrior two. Hands high. Rotate. Belly in. We'll try and turn the hips as much as we can towards the front of the mat. Extend over. Now press the back foot down. Try to feel all the muscles in the back leg engage. Front leg is very easy to engage for obvious reasons. Then we'll bring the hands to the floor, step it back. Down dog. Slope plank to half. Back into our down dog. A few well-earned breaths here, lifting the hips high, feeling the legs open, the shoulders open, the hands pressed down. And then we can bring that left leg in, lunge, take a little breath, come forwards, hands under the hips, and lift up. A little bit humid this evening, so starting to get a little warm here as we shake that out. Hands into the heart, just a moment to kind of let some heat out of the body. Maybe even be a little bit of sweat there. Just observing the feet, balance weight even throughout. Pelvis into neutral, so the belly's drawn in slightly. Tailbone points down to the floor. Crown of the head lifts. Take a last breath in. Allow ourselves to exhale forwards, soften the knees as we come in. We'll step back into our down dog. We're going to bring the toes on to the center line at the back of the mat. And we're going to bring our body into a plank. We're going to take the first one of these with the knee into the center to chest, so knees and nose touch. Then we'll take the second one with the leg moving to the same side, outside of the elbow tricep. And then we'll take the third one crossing over to the opposite elbow. So we're drawing the right knee in, and then forwards into plank. Try to get the knee to nose to touch. Come back into our down dog, keep the knee in towards the body. Come through to the plank, tap the tricep, back into our down dog, and then we come forwards into plank, just twisting over. Elbow touches knee or knee touches elbow, foot comes to the floor. The opposite leg, this leg comes in towards the body. We move through into plank, see if we can get the knee and nose to touch. Back into our down dog. We go for the tricep. And back into our down dog. We cross over. Little tap. And back. Foot to the floor. Right knee comes in through the center. Knee and nose touch. And back. Out to the tricep. Little tap. Over to the left. Little tap. Back into the dog. Foot to the floor. Left knee comes in through the center. Little squeeze. Out to the left. To the dog. Whew. To the right. And the foot to the floor. Let the knees come to the ground. Whew. Back into child's pose, head to the ground, hands go towards the toes. And if you use the hands to take hold of the heel, take a little breath, tuck your forehead under a little bit so you're moving more towards the crown of the head. Draw the belly in, allow yourself to lift your hips up, come onto the crown of the head and pull with the arms onto the heels. So we don't put very much weight through the neck, it's more of a lift, belly drawn in. And then we slowly move back, bring the weight out of the neck, bring the hands forwards, lengthen the neck out, lift up, whew. Hands into the front of the mat, all fours, into down dog. We'll walk the right and left leg into the front of the mat for a forward fold. Hands come onto the hips and we lift up. Hands into the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Right foot back for the lunge, ready for warrior two. We'll bring the hands alongside and lift up. We'll turn the palm on the front hand, reverse warrior. Back hand drops down the back thigh. Come back into the center. You can extend over that front leg so that we get a nice line that follows the back leg through the torso. And use the front arm and leg and just counteract them against each other. So one pushes in, one pushes out. Top arm lifts up towards the sky. We turn the palm forwards and make some big circles with this arm, keeping the chest turned to the long side of the mat. We keep a little bit of weight pressing down through the back foot so that we are conscious of the leg working. We'll come back into our warrior two. Take a little breath. We're going to slowly straighten up the front leg and then lengthen out. So we're going to come into what I would call a high triangle. We're going to bring the hand down somewhere onto the shin with not too much weight. So the body is lifting itself up. We're going to take that top arm up towards the sky and try and rotate the chest open a little bit. Press the hips just fractionally towards the side that you're looking at, unless they're already over there, in which case you're fine. Generally, they sort of turn away a little bit from us, so we have to bring them back into alignment. You're going to take a little breath from here, bend the front knee, come back into warrior two. Hands into the heart. The hands come down onto the inside of the front foot. Back heel spins up and the knee comes to the floor. We'll spin the front foot out to the side a little bit and take the left hand up towards the sky. Rotate it up and over. We're going to come into the twist and see if we can bring the right foot in towards the body. Find the limb that we're looking for back there. And let the chest lift a little bit, let the knee hang out to the side on the left. Release. Everything comes back down to the floor. Back knee lifts. We turn the toes to the long side of the mat. Hands follow around, so we're in a wide legged forward fold. We'll hinge from the hips. First of all, we'll send the tailbone back, crown of the head forward, so the spine is long, and then hinge from the hips down towards the floor with the body. Squeezing the thighs together a little, and pressing the feet down. Slowly bring the body back up. And we'll walk the fingers through to the front of the mat. Step it into the forward fold. Hands onto the hips and lift up. Those legs will be getting tired by now. Towards the heart. Exhaling down. Left leg back. Drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body. We lift up into warrior two. Turn the palm on the front hand for reverse warrior. Come back into warrior two. Extend out over the front thigh. That imaginary line in the body. Top arm up towards the sky. And then we'll rotate. Remember, just pressing the arm and the thigh lightly together. The hips press over towards the long side of the mat. Back foot presses down. We want the inner thigh and the quads on that back leg to feel like this. Actively working. And then we'll come back into warrior two, straightening the front leg, lengthening out for triangle. The body wants to feel like it's doing the lifting rather than the pressing on the leg to lift the body. This is just really for a little bit of balance. We'll soften the front knee back into warrior two. Hands in towards the heart. Bring the hands down to the floor on the inside. Back leg drops down. Spin the front foot out to the side a little bit. This time the right hand comes forwards, lifting up. That left leg is going to come in, hopefully. Find some part of the leg that you can hold on to. Allow the hamstring to get a little bit of compression. Might not be particularly happy. It doesn't get a lot of that done during the day. So kind of reacts a little bit sometimes. Release. Bring the hand over, foot to the floor. We lift the back knee. We'll turn the toes around as we walk the feet to the long side of the mat. Lengthen the spine again. And then fold gently down. We're actually trying to widen the shoulders out a little bit. And then we'll lift. Walk our fingers round to the front end of the mat. Take a little breath. Press into that forward fold. Hands onto the hips, lift up. We have one more dive to the floor, hands into the heart. Exhale down, those legs are going to be trembly and a bit weak by now. So conscious about the weight being even in the feet. We'll step back into down dog, transition, knees to the floor, spin the feet out, draw the block back underneath your bottom, and take the legs out in front. From Dandasana, I'm going to take the left foot underneath, right leg across, left arm up, and rotate into the twist. So the back hand goes behind the hip, try and keep the shoulders level with each other, tilt the pelvis forward so we get a little more length in the spine. Look over the rear shoulder if that's feeling comfortable to do. Pretty much everything should be warmed up now, so it's got more chance to be easy to look over that way. We'll release from there, let the legs lengthen back out. Cross over to the opposite side. Release from there. Take both legs back out again. We'll come into Janushirshasana, so we're going to bring the Left heel into the groin, thigh turns up, foot turns up, flexed, a little bend in the knee. Can I get some length in the spine? Hinge over, draw the chest forwards, 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 and then let the chest sink and let the head follow. Use the hands to press into the floor to lift up. We'll cross over to the second side. A little bend in the knee, space, hinge over, and let yourself drape down. Normally we keep working on drawing forwards, but this evening we're just going to let ourselves fold into that leg. We'll use the hands again to lift ourselves up. Take both legs out in front, give the legs a little bit of a shake. We'll come down to the floor. And move the block out to the side. Heels and buttocks get nice and close, familiar with each other. Take the arms out wide, heels in as close as we can. Just wiggle the shoulders out a little bit first. Take the left leg up and cross it over the right so the foot drops down the opposite side of the mat. We're going to shimmy the hips a little to the left and then let the legs drop over to the right. Try and keep the shoulders on the ground. And draw the belly in as you exhale. Use your abdominal muscles to lift the legs back. Recenter the hips, stretch out the legs to the sky. Right leg comes up, crosses over left. We shimmy to the right and let the legs drift left side. And bring ourselves back to the center. Reset the hips, just stretch the legs out for a last time, and then bring the knees in towards the body. And take one little space of time here to come into happy baby. So knees are wide, toes together, chin comes in towards the chest. We can slide the hands around the outside edge of the feet, keeping the knees low and the tailbone close to the ground. Relax the shoulders back. Make sure you've got a long neck. A lot of people tend to start to get tight in the shoulders and then into the neck and the upper back in this pose. And it's seen by the jaw drawing towards the crown of the head. And just make sure that your head and jaw and spine feel like they are in a nice neutral position, even though you're lying on the ground. And we're trying to let the tailbone relax or even consciously move the tailbone down towards the floor. Now we've got slightly short arms holding on to the ankles rather than the shins, rather than the feet. It's perfectly okay. Last little breath here. We're going to release the feet to the floor carefully and gracefully. And slide the feet out to the corner edges of the mat. Women's Shavasana. Out to the side of the body. So we're just going to, first of all, lick the lips a couple of times. And then I just want you to kind of flip and flop the feet up and down. So you can feel your legs lengthening out and the hips rocking a little bit underneath. And then we're going to wriggle the fingers out and the shoulders and the torso. Nice and loose. And then we're going to gradually do everything, come back to stillness and see if we can keep that sense of release and fun and lightness in the body. And just watch how the body starts to feel and react to being rested. See what we can learn. Begin to stretch the fingers and toes. Breathe a little deeper. All the wrists and the ankles. And stretch. Whatever that looks like. Slide the heels in towards the body. Slowly let the knees come in. A very simple, easy hug. And then when you feel ready, we'll roll gently onto the right side. We'll take one complete breath in and one complete exhale out on the side of our body. Take another breath in. And use the exhale from that breath to press into the floor and lift ourselves back up. And there we have another class completed. Hands into the heart, taking a breath in, bowing the head gently, drawing the belly to the spine and bowing gracefully to the floor. Healing our practice for the evening. Inhaling out, letting the breath build the spine for us. Head finally follows. Eyes open. Namaste. As it's Friday night, have a lovely weekend ahead. See you on the ride again soon.